evening, everyone. Good evening. We are about to get started here. I will ask everyone to take a seat at this time. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Missouri City Community Redistricting Workshop. I thank you all for being here. As a product of this great community, it is truly an honor and a privilege to serve as the Missouri City Attorney. You know, your city council recognizes how fragile our democracy is. That is why they have asked staff this year to go above and beyond in providing you all with information about this redistricting process. You know, this year, unlike previous years, the city has had or will have up to 9 meetings in which you, the public, are invited to receive information about this redistricting process. We have had 5 virtual meetings and 2 public hearings so far. The final public hearing will be held on April 4th, 2022. At this time, we will present information on redistricting again to you all. There will be a question and answer session. If you have not filled out a public comment card, please do so. Those forms are at the back table where you first signed in. At this time, I will ask our mayor to come forward to provide introductory remarks.
Well, good evening. Just want to take this time to welcome all of you to the town hall meeting. And as you heard, Joyce talked about, there was 4 district council that we have. Each of those district council had a virtual workshop, but there were some complaints of people couldn't see the map and it wasn't, you know, you couldn't zoom in if you zoomed in and you know, the image started to distort a little bit and what have you. So this public meeting, we have the same 3 maps. You have map A on the left side, map or sample map A, sample map B on the back end on the right-hand side, on my right-hand side, and then sample C of the map, which is in the mid part of the room. So these are the 3 maps, as Joyce mentioned, that the consultant had made the opportunity to look at censor blocks and come up with this process. In all 4 meetings, I only got to attend 2 of the virtual meetings, but I know that each of the council member from District A, B, C, and D attended respectively their own meetings. So there was comments that was made, so those are going to be into consideration. And then tonight, after the presentation, you have an opportunity to ask comments or questions, and those will be answered to the best as possible. And then we can take all the comments, all the questions, and kind of give it to the consultant to see that how they can retrofit perhaps something that would be looking more to where we needed to go. But on April 4th, which is the next city council meeting, there will be a public hearing, which again allows the residents of our city to come up and to address the city council. And I believe the next meeting, April, when is that, April 16th? 18th, April 18th, the city council will go ahead and approve one of the maps. Could be A, B, C, or D, E, F, what have you. We'll come into that. I want to take this time to thank Joyce. As you know, Joyce is our city attorney. She doesn't approve any maps. It's really approved by the 7 elected body of this government of the city of Missouri City, which is your 4 council districts, your 2 at large, and then including myself as well. So as Joyce indicated, I've asked other cities, City of Sugar Land and City of Stafford and Pearland, And I know they have gone through this same process, and they adopted their redistricting maps already. So it is with the federal law that we have to do this. We could have, if we could have just left it the way it is, but that's not how it works. And it also part of our charter that allows us to make sure that we grow this, we make an adjustment as it needed. And our two points of view that I like to make is we have two districts. One is at low, and the other one is much grown higher. And there was a possible question that came up, you know, the homes that are being put in today in the market that's being built today, will that reflect some of this map? And the answer is no, because this was what taken into consideration from the 2020 census that we have. So anything that's being built right now will be dealt with in 2030 during that census time. And we'll be around if there are any questions. Your council district representation is here. Your large council members are here. Myself, along with Joyce and her staff, along with city manager and others are here to hear your comments and your inputs. So thank you all for being here. May God bless you.
At this time, we do have our district council members who are here. If you all would like to take about 1 minute to welcome the audience, feel free. If not, you can certainly pass, but if anyone would like to make any comments, you can do so at this time. Okay, thank you. So they're giving you back your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, council members. Okay, next we will have our city manager, Mr. Charles Jackson.
I'm a little bit taller than the mayor, so have to adjust that. Good evening, everyone. As Mayor said, there's already been 4 of these meetings, and they were held virtually. After the first 2 virtual meetings, the city attorney came to me and advised me that there were some citizens that were asking what the city management, the city administration's analysis or opinions were related to the current redistricting initiative. So since then, I've tried to attend all these meetings and make sure I point out some requirements that are placed on the administration when it comes to this. First, I would like to say that I appreciate that the citizens have confidence in the opinion of the administration and are actively seeking it out. But I need to lay out the requirements when it comes to redistricting here in Missouri City. Redistricting, as the mayor mentioned, one of the things redistricting is required by the charter of the city of Missouri City. The city of Missouri City is also by charter a council manager form of government. Under that form of government, the elected body deals with policy and the city manager addresses with implementation of that policy. Redistricting, as the mayor mentioned and as you've heard in the other meetings, is a policy decision. It's not an administrative decision. Redistricting by its very nature is a political function or a policy function of the subdivision undertaking it. As such, active participation in that process by the city manager would constitute a charter violation. Additionally, it would also constitute a violation of the Texas City Management Association Code of Ethics, which I'm held to. As such, I have to say to each of you that I have no opinion on this matter. But what I can say is that I fully believe that your city council and the city attorney have done everything that they can to be in compliance with the charter and with the law in the process up to this point. That's a factual statement, and hopefully that will provide some encouragement for you from the administration as to this process, as to what has happened in this process, and as to what will happen in this process going forward. Thank you. We'll be here all night. If you have any questions, factual questions, everybody that's here with the administration will be happy to help with those tonight as well.
Thank you. This presentation serves the City Council's strategic goals of creating a great place to live and creating a high-performance city team. The objectives here, again, are to present the maps that have been prepared based on traditionally acceptable legal principles and criteria adopted by your City Council. As the mayor mentioned, there might be an additional map that is placed on the city's website. I already have a request from at least one council member to make a few changes to a map. So please keep looking at the city's website. You can go to MissouriCityTX.gov and search redistricting to obtain the city's redistricting website. If you grabbed a copy of the FAQ, that is also on the FAQ. Please take a look at that website. Every presentation that has been provided, the information about each proposed map is on that website. And if there are any additional maps that are created, they will also be placed on that same website. So definitely keep looking at that. After the formal presentation, we will have, again, a question and answer period. So if you haven't filled out a comment card and you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please do so. Like in city council meetings, those comments should be limited to 3 minutes, comments and questions. Okay, the first question I get a lot of, and if you have an FAQ, some of these questions are contained in your FAQ, so bear with me. But the first question I receive a lot of is, what is redistricting? Redistricting is essentially the process of redrawing electoral district boundaries for voter representation. So this is not zoning. This is not your school district boundaries. This is simply your city council district member boundaries. So when you go to the ballot box, when you vote for your District A, District B, District C, or District D representative, this map will determine which district representative you are able to vote for. We get this question a lot. Why is the city redistricting? The city's charter requires that the city review census data at least once every 10 years. The city last reviewed its census data and redrew its lines in 2012. Therefore, the city has to redraw its boundaries and look at its lines and the population this year in 2022. So again, the city's charter requires that, and federal law also requires that each district has a relatively equal population. So, you know, if someone asks you after you leave this meeting, so why is the city redistricting? Remember, it's because the city has to redistrict pursuant to its charter and federal law. Another question I get is, why are some neighborhoods moving from one city council district to another in any proposed map? Again, when the city looks at its census data, it might determine that some council districts have too many people or too little people. And so when that happens, there is an issue or a difference between the populations that requires the city to attempt to try to equalize the population. So some neighborhoods might be moving to other districts under any one of the proposed maps in order to create population equalization. So a relatively equal number of people in each district. And remember this qualifier, relatively equal. That doesn't mean that we have to have 18,000 people in each district. Federal law does allow a 10% maximum deviation. So there can be a little bit more in some districts and a little bit less in others. Will a resident's taxes change if their neighborhood moves from one city council district to another? No. Remember that your taxes are based on the value of your property and the tax rate that is set by the city council. That tax rate applies to all residents of the city, regardless of whether they live in District A, B, C, or D. What is a census block? A census block is the smallest geographic unit that the United States Census Bureau uses to calculate population. So when you look at these proposed maps, They are broken down the consultant used census block data to break down kind of where the city could create lines. The goal is not to split census blocks that have residents in them, because again, the goal of redistricting is to create an equal population, or as equal as possible in each district. So census block data is what is used and what is accepted to tabulate population in the United States. A question I've gotten a lot of is what happened in 2012? In 2012, the city received its initial assessment on January 17th. The council reviewed various plans. The council decided on one plan to present to the public, and the public provided comments for that plan at the meeting at which the plan was adopted. And so that plan was finally adopted on May 21st, 2012. Where did the proposed maps come from? The mayor mentioned this a little bit as well. The city hired a legal consultant, Bickerstaff, who reviewed the census data and proposed various maps based on council-adopted criteria. Additionally, each map that is being presented to you is being proposed based on legal principles. So again, the goal is to comply with the federal regulations that apply to redistricting, and each map has been reviewed and vetted for that purpose. Why aren't the maps based on voting age population? There has been a lot of interest in why the city hasn't utilized voting age population. And that's because under the Constitution and Supreme Court case law, the basis for redistricting is the one person, one vote principle, representational equality. And that language refers not to individuals who are able to vote, but to total population. The reason that has been applied is because there are constituencies, like children, who impact and require services, but who can't vote. So when the Constitution and when the court looks at one person, one vote and representational equality, they're looking at the services that are to be provided to an entire community, to an entire population. And so that's not based on the folks who can vote, it's based on the people who are in those areas. So the next question I've gotten, and actually this is a recent addition from the District D meeting, does this process include future residents of developments? The example that was provided at one of the meetings was that there's a proposed apartment, I believe, in District D. Does this drawing or redrawing of the lines include or count those future people who were not yet in those apartments? No, it does not. Again, the redrawing of the city's lines is based on the census data from 2020. So since those individuals were not present in 2020 to complete the census process, they are not counted at this time for redistricting purposes. Another question we've gotten is about gerrymandering and whether the city is manipulating boundaries for electoral or specific groups. What I've done here, and actually this is hard to see, but again, this presentation will be provided to you online, so you'll be able to take a closer look. But I've broken down the changes in population by each district, by each race, so that you can clearly see that the difference in population for each race and each district is actually less than 6% for every proposed map. Now, again, if we have additional maps that are added, I will update this slide and update this information so that it's available on the city's website. But based on proposed map A, proposed map B, and proposed map C, there is a less than 6% difference between each category of individuals in each district. So that's in District A, District B, District C, and District D. And so again, this will be posted on the city's website. If you're interested in this information, you'll be able to take a look at it there. And so another question, I actually got this question tonight as well. Why are the maps labeled A, B, and C? We have districts A, B, and C, and this makes it a little confusing to determine what map refers to what area. But this was simply a naming system that was created by the consultant that we went with. I have been asked to change it, but at this point, I am concerned that changing it will confuse the people who've already seen it. And so I would like to make sure that we're being consistent with terminology. But just to let everyone know, map A is the first map that was prepared. So you can see, and that's on this wall closest to the doors. Joseph, if you could wave. Joseph is sitting by the map A area. So that is simply the first map that was prepared. Map B, which is in the corner, Monica, if you can wave. Map B is in that corner, and that's the second map that was prepared. And map C is the third map that was prepared. And we'll go into the differences between the maps in just a second here. Why can't the city add additional districts during this redistricting process? One of the comments we received was that the city needs more district seats versus at-large seats. The city council makeup is actually set forth in the city's charter. The charter, like the Constitution, has to be changed by vote, by an election. The next time the city's charter will be reviewed by a charter review commission, maybe in about 2024. We actually just had a charter election last year. So in order to change the makeup of the council districts, there would have to be a charter election to amend the charter. Another question we've gotten is, why do residents in limited purpose areas get to vote in Missouri City? State law requires that the city allow residents in limited purpose annexation areas to vote in elections for officials. As some of you might know, the city had a limited purpose annexation of Siena Municipal Utility Districts 1, 5, 6, and 7 back in 2020. You'll notice in later slides that I only list Siena MUDs 6 and 7 because 1 and 5 are not populated. 7 actually currently isn't populated, but 1 and 5 will probably not be populated because they're not for subdivision purposes. So why does the city have this area included in its proposed boundaries? State law requires it, is the short answer. Who has the authority to adopt the final map? City Council. Your elected representatives get to determine which map should serve this community. A timeline is provided. It just lets you all know kind of the process that the city has undergone throughout this redistricting process, starting from November of 2021. Again, this is already available on the website if anyone is interested in the timeline. It sets forth the meeting days. As the mayor mentioned, your next public hearing on the subject is April 4th at the regular city council meeting at 7 p.m. The final adoption of a proposed ordinance may be considered on April 18th, which would be the meeting after that. So now we get to kind of get into the meat of the matter. As I mentioned, the city hired Bickerstaff to analyze its census data. After they analyzed that census data, they provided an initial assessment. That initial assessment found that the total maximum deviation between the city's districts was 21.88%. Does anyone remember the maximum deviation amount, or can anyone? Awesome, thank you. I'm glad that you all are listening. 10%, that is correct. So the total maximum deviation number for Missouri City currently is 21.88%, which is higher than the maximum allowable deviation for the purposes of the population. And so Bickerstaff recommended that the city council redistrict, and again, pursuant to federal law in our charter, the city engaged and got into that process. So what they found was that District D is the city's most populated district with 21,451 residents. District C is currently the least populated district with 17,339 residents. The ideal size based on the total population of the city is about 18,797 people. Now again, that does not mean that each district in Missouri City must have 18,797 people. There is a maximum allowable deviation of 10%. So some districts might have a little more, some districts might have a little less. The established criteria from the council included maintaining existing council districts, maintaining traditional neighborhoods. And by traditional neighborhoods, what we mean is neighborhoods that share the same HOA, deeds restrictions, and management company. So, Missouri City is a wonderful city. There are lots of kind of little subdivision or sub-neighborhoods within neighborhoods, but when we talk about traditional neighborhoods, we really mean the folks that have that one HOA president or share that one HOA president that share those same kind of deed restrictions. And additionally, they found that we should provide for contiguous territory. So basically, you won't have a portion of District A in the northernmost part of the city and a portion of District A in the southernmost part of the city. All of the districts have to connect to other parts of the district. And additionally, of course, they found that we needed to maintain an equal population, but within the 10% deviation. Now, in terms of abiding by and being able to comply with all of those proposed criteria, the city was not able to do that with every neighborhood. And I just point out one here just to let you know. And we did try to put all of Quill Valley East into one district, but we're unable to. So currently Quill Valley East is split between districts B and D, but based on the census block data for that area, as well as the existing population of the other areas within the districts, we weren't able to put them all into one district because it would have thrown off the population numbers. So proposed map A is the first map we'll talk about. And again, there might be an additional map or two that is produced after this point, but that will be added to the city's website, and I will work with the communications team to hopefully get out that information if there is another map that's produced. But proposed map A, which is the map over here by the doors, makes these following population changes. Just to highlight a few. Hunters Glen 4 and 5 are moved to District A in map A. Meadow Creek and Pebblebrook are moved to District A in map A. Hunters Point Estates is moved to District B. Olive Creekmont, Olive Olympia Estates, New Point Estates, and Shipments Cove are also moved to District B, along with Lakeshore Harbor. Quail Village Townhouses, Quail Valley North, Lexington Place, and Bermuda Dunes Villas Townhomes are all moved to District C in this proposed map, and Oyster Creek Farms is moved to District D. I've included maps in this presentation, but you all can certainly, after we're done here, take a closer look at the proposed maps along the walls to get a closer look. But again, this just kind of highlights the population changes to these proposed districts. This depiction is of map A. This is map B, or not map B, I apologize, District B, District C, and District D. And just to let you all know, and you'll also see it on the maps that are posted, the red line is the actual district boundary right now. The colors represent the proposed changes based on each map. So the proposed maximum deviation for this map A is at about 9.38%. And so again, you'll find that it's within the maximum allowable deviation number. This chart simply provides a comparison of the current population percentages and numbers versus the proposed population for different demographic groups within the map A folks. The proposed map B population highlights. This slide includes the changes for map B. One of our council members asked to have certain neighborhoods returned to her district. And so in doing so, we ended up changing other parts, of course, of the city to make up the population that was needed in order to have an equal populations between districts. So in proposed map B, you'll find that Meadow Creek and Pebblebrook are moved to District A. Hunters Point Estates, Olive Creekmont, and New Point Estates and Shipman's Cove are moved to District B. Waterbrook West is moved to District C, along with Sienna Municipal Utility Districts 6 and 7, as well as Villas at Sienna Apartments. And again, remember that District D is currently overpopulated. So in all of these maps, you will see that we're not moving a whole lot of population into District D. Most of the population is actually coming out of District D and is going to other places. So in proposed map B, there's no neighborhoods are being added to District D. They're just going over to other districts. And just as an FYI, I won't spend a whole lot of time on map C because map C is identical to map B with the exception that all of Olympia Estates has been added to District B in map C. Other than that, they're essentially the same maps. So proposed map, the proposed map B includes, this is the full map, and again, proposed map B is in that back corner there by Monica, and you can see the green, or the different colors represent the proposed area for each district. And so each slide just includes the different district changes. You know, again, under map B, only Meadow Creek and Pebblebrook are added to District A. Only Hunters Point Estates and Creekmont, New Point Estates and Shipman's Cove are added to B. And Waterbrook West, the Sienna Muds and Villas at Sienna are added to C. And of course, nothing is added to D. But you can see kind of how the different format of the different districts under this map. And so the maximum deviation under this proposed map B is at about 4.33%. So it gets a little lower. Proposed map C, again, is identical to proposed map B, with the exception that all of Olympia Estates is added to District B in proposed map C. And the total maximum deviation on this map is at about 3.65%. So with that, that's really the sum of my presentation. But I do want to encourage everyone to submit, if you have comments, please do submit written comments to mcredistricting@missouricitytx.gov. That's also on your handout, your frequently asked questions handout that's available in the back. So please do submit written comments to that email address or questions that you might have. Those comments and questions will be shared with your city council so that they have the privilege of reviewing that before they make any decision. And again, as mentioned before, the last public hearing will be held at the next city council meeting on April 4th, 2022. But, you know, really, I encourage everyone, if you have comments, to submit them in writing so that they can become part of that written record for this process. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and open it up for questions. Okay. The first person we have is Jerry O'Brien.
Is this active? Hello, my name is Jerry O'Brien. I've lived here in Meadow Creek for 35 years. I know more people in Section B all around. I've coached soccer. I've been a Cub Scout leader. I've been a Boy Scout leader. I don't know anybody in Section A. And all the time I've been here, I know people in Section D and C. One thing I did notice on all these choices we're given, there's no choice where Meadow Creek stays where we've been with the group of people in the communities that are most like us. You know, Quill Valley, the way I see it is, it was a suburb, not Quill Valley, Meadow Creek was a suburb of Quill Valley. It was built to, I guess, house people who couldn't afford the Quill Valley houses. They were nice houses down there. Meadow Creek is a little different, but it's a very nice neighborhood. I loved it because it has cul-de-sacs. One of the intentions of your redistricting, I noticed, was you wanted to shrink D and grow C, because those two were at opposite ends. Why don't you just move people from D over to C, and instead, because on some of these, you're talking about putting some groups back into D, and you need to shrink D. You know, you can leave Meadow Creek right where we are. We're happy. I don't know anybody that isn't happy with the status quo where we've been for 35, 40 years. Okay, the other question I'd like to ask is, this person you had, this company that you had to do this, did you involve any of the citizens from the various areas in the city to volunteer on that board, to put some of our input in, to put a sense of propriety, what we would prefer, what we think makes sense to us who live here, us who have gotten along and we shop at the stores on Cartwright, on Texas Parkway, we interact with the other people in the different sections of the city, and we know what we want our city to be like and what we want our neighborhoods and our groups to be like. I don't know why this is, you know, I've heard about it, I guess, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when they said, oh, we're having this online session that you can come and you can communicate, see what's happening with these maps and have some input, which seems to be a tedious way to do it. But also, when I looked at the maps, the way they're drawn with the outlines and the colors, I couldn't tell if I was getting a choice with Meadow Creek. And when I talk to people after I've been here today and I look at, well, I still can't tell with the maps because the red line and the blue color, and because they don't show you, hey, here's where you are right now. Here is what you're happening with. So I got 13 seconds, but I'll leave it to you. Okay. But can we get some people involved before it's too late to address it, some citizens?
And so this is part of the public involvement process. Those virtual meetings, the public hearings that the city has had, these are, you know, essentially your opportunities to become involved and also to submit comments to the MC redistricting at MissouriCityTX.gov email address. So this is the opportunity for you all to do that. I will tell you that one of the proposed maps that we're currently working on that hasn't been released does put Meadow Creek back into District B because the council is listening and they have heard comments from the neighborhood about that. So one proposed map, at least one of the proposed maps that we're working on does do that. It's just one of the ones that's currently being processed that hasn't been put on the website. But again, look to that website within the next few days to see the update. But yeah, so there will be a proposed map that makes that change.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think next we have Mr. Jim Fontenot.
I'm a little taller than Jerry. First of all, E. Joyce, I want to compliment you on how you've presented these very complicated processes throughout the project. I went through, and I'm going to make this short, I think what Jerry was talking about basically was having a task group or a commission. We did it with the charter amendments. I think we did it to some extent with the bond. I'm surprised that we didn't put some kind of commission together for this. This is very important because we won't be able to do anything with this for another 10 years. The thing I went through, I came up with about 3, maybe 4 variations of charts. And obviously I'm looking at Meadow Creek. But then on the other hand, I remember listening to 3 girls that were here the other day giving some poetry readings. Kenyatta, I believe, and Karen, and the other one was Brianna. And that resonated with me. One of the concerns they had was Texas Parkway, Cartwright, and their vision. So I looked at one particular variation to look at District A and expanding District A through Texas Parkway, as well as up to Foodorama, if you know, familiar with that area. And when I look at Cartwright Road, where Meadow Creek sits, the only HOA that's addressed to Cartwright, we have, I believe, something in common with District C. Because if you start Cartwright from Texas Parkway to 1092, it's a desolate area. The mediums are dirty, the walls are dirty. Soon as you cross 1092, which is still Cartwright, it's another city. So my point is why didn't you look at Meadow Creek and some of the other areas and say, hey, it's time for us to be one big happy family in District C and across District D, as Jerry eloquently explained, because I remember part of the history on that, on the development. Quail Valley was supposed to be some of the executives coming from some of the administrative offices, oil and gas companies, and Meadow Creek was going to be sort of the secretary of administrative staff. So we do have a lot in common with District D and District C. And some of the variations that I'm going to provide to the city will include some kind of merger, and it's going to wake some sleeping giants. When I went to most of the virtual meetings, and I noticed that District A had about 30-plus people attending, District B, 30-plus people, District C, maybe 12, District D, maybe 15. So my point is it's always in the underserved areas where we've got to protest, where we got to get out with picket signs. We see it with Cindy's adult stores. They don't put up picket signs, but at the gas station, people got to be out with picket signs. Look at this from a fair standpoint. It's more than just a fair vote. Sometimes it's about a fair voice.
Right. Next, we have Ms. Linda Russell.
Hi. Oops. Is it on? Oh, okay. Okay. Ready. Linda Russell, 2923 Ashmont Drive. I have lived there for 46 years since Ashmont was a dirt road. So I've seen lots of growths and everything going on. I do want to say Jerry and Jim have taken a lot of my notes that I have written, so they have already said their comments, which I agree with. But I do want to let you know there's more people that are not here because they are still in traffic trying to get home. I've had lots of phone calls asking me to please relate that to everyone. And they, along with me, do not want to be in District A, again, because their concerns are distant from us. We are concerned about Cartwright Road. We are concerned about code enforcements not being taken care of. We need our area cleaned up. District A has things they need to have cleaned up and taken care of. Also, we don't want to have our voting for council members and everything liquidated. Okay. I want to thank you for letting us be here tonight. I think we should have had more of these types of meetings before the maps were drawn up. And I'm glad to hear that Meadow Creek is being considered to stay in Together, Not in A, because we did not have any choices in the maps. Okay, that's all I'm going to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hyacinth Williams.
Good evening, I'm Hyacinth Williams, and I'm also in Meadow Creek. I've been there for over 30 years as well, and I agree with everyone that came up here and spoke today. The question I really have is why wasn't a representative from each homeowners association involved in the team that you said that was, working on this redistricting? That should have been something that should have been put in place. So every district was excluded. So the people, to me, the people were not really from every district involved in what decisions are being made with these maps. And also a consultant is being hired. I mean, who is consultant working with? Who are they working with in each district? I mean, we have to remember that all these government people that's sitting right now in office, that we are the persons that put you there. We're the voters, and we can vote you out just as we put you in. So you gotta be very careful what you guys are doing today. And then we're talking a lot about government. Was there a complaint from the federal government? If so, where was it published? Where's the written documents that shows that there was a huge issue with this redistricting? And if you notice how large from your maps that District A is, it's huge. And you're expanding District A to be maybe even bigger. So that means it's going to cause a bigger problem for District A. So, I mean, I don't know. We don't see the numbers. You're telling us about numbers and census and so on, but we don't see that. So there's a lot of questions here as how you guys are, really handling the whole process. It seems that from what you said tonight is that the council is going to decide on the maps. They're not saying that based on what the people are saying, it doesn't matter what we say, but they're going to make the final decision of which map they feel works for them and not for the people. Okay, so I think, that is something to take in, and it seems that it's very political to me. And I don't know who sets the deadlines. So there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of complaints, and you guys need to take us as citizens and voters, our comments and suggestions at heart. So I hope that that next map is going to be part of you, whoever's working on this and those consultants taking into consideration to get every single association involved in the final mapping of that map.
Sure, and if I may address some of your questions, you asked who the consultant is working with. They are working with my office, so they're working with staff. So I'll tell you that our goal with every map that's prepared is to comply with the law. As you can see with some of these maps, we've been able to get that deviation number down with each potential map that we've put out, but these are just proposals. The council is taking into consideration the comments that are being provided by you all, which is why they've asked to have another or other maps made so that they can reflect the comments and the changes that are being requested by the public. The involvement of the HOAs is great, but I think, and I don't want to speak for the council, but I think what they wanted to do was to open up this process to you all, to the public, so that you could provide these comments. We have received comments from different individuals. We've tried to make maps based on comments from different individuals in different areas. And so instead of hearing from kind of HOA representatives, the district meetings that we've had have been open to the public. The comments that are submitted are open to the public. So everyone who has wanted to, essentially who has wanted to submit a comment or who's kind of wanted to be involved and put their comments out there, they've had that opportunity through this process. Additionally, as I mentioned at the outset, there have been at least 2 public hearings before the council where they've actually taken comments, I think from 1 or 2 people who are here as well tonight, but they've taken comments and they've tried to include that in proposed maps. So to kind of answer that question, I do think that there has been an effort that has been made clearly to include the public and to get comments and feedback from the public. That's why we're here tonight as well. So I appreciate those comments. But you also asked, it's not too late because we're still making maps. And they haven't voted.
They need to be involved in the beginning,
Okay.
not at the end. This is like almost at the end. We got to April 4th, this is at the end. So where they should have been involved, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not like involving the public. The public should be involved, but they should have been involved in the beginning of the process.
Okay, thank you. Your next question was about a complaint from the federal government. The city hasn't received a formal complaint from the federal government regarding redistricting. We just know the laws that we have to follow, and we also know that we have to follow the city's charter. And you talked about District A expansion. Again, the purpose of redistricting isn't really about geographic area, it's about population. So any proposed changes are to equalize the total population, not necessarily a geographic area. The next comment or question we have is from Cynthia, I believe Cynthia Stewart.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Stewart, and I've been a resident of Meadow Creek 5 for 35 years, and I just wanted to come and voice my objection to the proposals that are before us on tonight. I'm really concerned that it seemed, I don't know what the provided criteria were to the consultant, but as we look at these maps, it would look like the criteria was to get Meadow Creek into District A. There is no proposal that we see here tonight that does not do that. And the maps are really drawn very funny because they go all the way around some of Hunter's Glen to go over and grab Meadow Creek. So I just want to speak in favor of Meadow Creek either staying in District B or some other option where District C is made larger, but I'm not sure why the divergent concerns of Meadow Creek and District A would be combined. District A has some serious and very pertinent concerns that they have, but they are not the same concerns that we have in Meadow Creek. And I think that combining those two will dilute the power of both. You mentioned in your discussion of the map for the B map, I believe it was, that a councilwoman asked to have neighborhoods left in her district and that a map was provided in order to achieve that. I'm concerned that our representation looks like didn't ask to keep us. And I would like to know if that happened. And also I would be interested in knowing what were all the criteria that were given to the consultant, that the consultant came up with a map that in every case, regardless of how weird it looked, it took Meadow Creek. Those are my concerns, but thank you for the time to speak. And I hope that we see something that's a lot better very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. As I mentioned, the next map that will be put out into the public does place Meadow Creek back into District B. And you asked about proposed the adopted criteria. That's actually available on the city's website as well, on that redistricting page. And again, that criteria included trying to keep neighborhoods together, keeping districts contiguous, trying to maintain existing council districts, and those sorts of things. But the full resolution adopting the criteria is available on the city's website. Thank you. The next individual we have to speak is, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Miss Darlene Goss.
Good evening. I'm Darlene Goss. I've lived in Meadow Creek for 35 years. I am very opposed to the maps, all the maps. I can't say anything differently than what I've already heard from my neighbors, because all the maps seem to favor taking Meadow Creek out of District B. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Tremaine Chapman Rose.
Good evening, everyone. I live in District C. I really like my councilman. We have a lot of restaurants, nice communities in our area. When it's time for him to come up for election and there's people that run against him, I can say all the stuff that he's done for our community. I know everybody on council. I think we have an awesome council, an awesome city, but when it comes to District A, they're getting the short end of the stick on every map. And the biggest concern is District B, A and B has had problems in the past, but District B is flourishing. There's a lot of development. Jeffrey Boney, I can't see you. He's been doing an awesome job. But my concern in District A, if you keep chopping away at that district, no one can provide anything for that community. I sent you a couple maps and concerns, everything from demographics to just the loss of businesses and some of the parks that would be lost in District A. And you have Meadow Creek, they clearly don't want to be in the community. Also, they have their concerns with streets. So not only are you putting their problems on the District A, but District A have their own issues. So I just take that into consideration. I have a lot of time left, but once again, I think the council was awesome. We have a lot of good thinkers and smart people. Even Edwards, I'm waiting for another food truck event. Gas is almost $4, and I don't want to go into Houston. So having food trucks and restaurants in a community helps. So once again, my plea is please do something where District A is not getting the short end of the stick. And I give the rest of my time to Gloria Lucas.
The next person we have is Jackie Teamer.
Thank you. Well, I live in District A, and I didn't even see my neighborhood on the map anywhere. We live in Colony Crossing. We're excluded from everything. We have no police unless we pay for it ourselves. We have nothing over there. We don't have any restaurants. We don't have any stores. We don't have anything there. I think that we're wasting our time here, and that's kind of how we feel. A lot of the people who've lived there for 30 years, like I have, plus raised my kids here, they went to college, medical school, and all that, are leaving that place. And the reason they're leaving is not because we're poor. We're very well off. But they don't respect the fact that we are citizens that live here and we don't get any representation from anywhere, okay? So my concern is that, not to be ugly here or disrespectful here, but the truth is that I feel like these lines are already drawn. You guys have already probably decided where you're gonna put people and districts and things. I got a feeling that we may be wasting our time. I don't know. It seems like even before the people who are on the council now, this was been going on before we had old people who were on the council who may be different now. So the plans have already been in place, and my question is, does it matter at this point what we say? What help will we get? If we don't pay for our own police, we don't get any representation at all. They don't drive through our neighborhood. They say we're just over there. And it's like we're paying taxes, a lot of us making $500,000 a year, yes, and we are getting zero representation from this city. And so for that reason, if you want to add more problems to District A, we can't afford to have any more problems. We have enough of our own already. So that's all I have to say. And the question I really have is, what these percents were, is it strictly political? And you did explain it, the maps, with my eyes and the age that I am, I couldn't see any of that, and I'll have to go online, and I have a busy job also. But the question I have is it going to matter at all whether or not we are concerned? Because it appears that over the last years, we haven't had any representation, no restaurants. All we have is gas stations over there, which brings crime to your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. As it relates to redistricting, Ms. Teamer, I definitely think that your comments are being taken into account. As I mentioned, Councilmember Riley even has requested an additional map that makes certain changes, including changes that came from the public, comments from the public.
It's forgotten. We're not even there, but we pay our taxes just like everybody else. We do, and we're not poor. They feel like just maybe, I don't know what they think about us, but we are tax-paying citizens just like everybody else, with zero representation, you guys, zero. They never come. If we call them, they will come. But just to ride through and have some neighborhood policing, we have to pay for our own, and we do pay for it.
Thank you. And Ed Teamer? Oh, okay, okay. Mr. Bruce Zabrowski?
Last week was 40 years of me being in Missouri City, District A, 2 blocks from the city limits of Houston. District A has been totally neglected, and I agree with the rest of the people in Colony Crossing. I've been ranting for years about a bridge to get to the other side. Nothing's been done. And you're going to throw Meadow Creek into our district with bad streets, or are you telling them that it's their responsibility to fix those roads? We already have enough problems in District A. Why don't you redraw the lines and maybe get us out of Missouri City, because we already have a Houston mailing address. We're zoned to Houston schools. What do we have in common with Creekway Circle? What? Nothing. We still can't get anything out of City Council. The lady is right. Nobody patrols. They don't even come into Fawn Meadow. A lot of them don't even know where it's at. A couple times when I've had to call the police, I had to explain to her where Reva Ridge was. So, you know, we're Houston. We have a Houston mailing address. We pay Houston school taxes, and we pay Missouri City taxes, which are outrageous because senior citizens don't get much of a break in this city, period. And we're going to throw us in with Creekway Circle with their bad roads, and we don't have a bridge. It sounds like you're gerrymandering all the trouble into District A.
Miss Angie Worsbecky. Okay, Ms. Deidre Carpenter. Deidre Carpenter. Miss.
Hi, y'all. I just want to say to the committee, the board, y'all are doing a great job. I'm glad you're going back and revamping the map, because what we see, we're not. I said, I want to say to the board, we appreciate the work that you're putting in. And I want to say that I'm glad that you're redoing the maps. I think we need something different to look at. I'm listening to all the comments, and I was going to actually put a business in Missouri City. Of course, you know I'm in Stafford now, but for the same reason that they're talking about. It's a dead zone. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time.
Okay, the next person is Miss Gloria Lucas.
I'm from Colony Crossing with her, so she's yielding her time from Colony Crossing to me. We're in District A, so we're going to speak together.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you started it over. So I have nothing new other than what everyone else has said. I'm piggybacking off what they've said. One thing that I can bring up for District A is that we are in an industrial area, and we've asked the city more than once since we have all the 18-wheelers coming up and down South Gessner. We've petitioned for a wall, a sound wall, more than once. We've had numerous residents that live on South Gessner. Their fence is backed up to South Gessner to have to constantly replace their fences because their fences have been run into, because it's almost like a highway. It should be named Highway 6B. Because the cars come up and down the road, and they're at an accelerated rate. The 18-wheelers come in and out. They do not respect the signs that says no trucks on Cravens, South Cravens, and they still go that way. They built the beltway to cut the traffic off. They still come through. They even come through our neighborhood, and so now our roads are starting to spread. They have cracked. So again, I'm just coming on behalf of Colony Crossing, the forgotten part of District A, where our concerns are not being addressed. And we really just want you all to hear our concerns as you consider redrawing or redistricting and adding more to our plate. And I did walk and look at all the maps, and I've noticed that basically we are being merged with other areas that have major concerns. And as the young lady said, that live over in the area where everything is green, we have none of that. We have to drive to her green space, to her area, to shop. If we want to go to Kroger's, Randall's, the nice stores, we have to go out of our area to get to a nice store. We have no restaurants. She said she has restaurants. We have none. We have to either call Uber maybe to pick us up if we don't want to drive, or we can get the food delivered, but most of the times we go over into the more affluent area to eat if we want to eat out. So please consider when you are thinking about what maps you're going to put in place that you do not add any more burdens, but address our concerns. Thank you.
And ma'am, what's your name?
My name is Sandra Williams.
Thank you.
And I live on 16511 Sagewood Court. Thank you.
Okay, just a quick point of clarification, after which Ms. Gloria Lucas will provide her comments. Colony Crossing is included on the map. District A is that area that's represented in the light blue on each map. The next individual, Ms. Gloria Lucas.
Good evening, everyone. I know everyone there knows me. My question and my comments is really directed at council. I am in District A, Fundren Park, have been for 24 years. Every single thing that have been said about District A is true, good or bad, is true, okay? We're underserved. We're considered the second city of Missouri City. And for you to want to redistrict and bring in other cities or other subdivisions that are struggling as well is going to put us further in jeopardy, okay? We're not getting any service or anything now. One of the questions that was asked, who did you consult with? I know the lady there wasn't saying to consult or with HOH, get someone there on board, but get someone, 2 or 3 from each district to work with whoever our tax dollars is paying for to make this decision. I think the decision that is being made for District A now is going to put us in a worse situation that we're in now. A worse situation. I see it as a way of selecting your voters. I see it as a way of selecting your voters. Okay, that's what I see it as. There's an issue that we've been dealing with that I've been on board with, you all know, for about 15 years. We don't have a park on the north side. We're still dealing with that. And now you want to come over and do that? We're underserved. We've always been. I want to know, did you all even think about consulting with licensed real estate brokers or agent? Okay, there's plenty in Missouri City that could have worked with this consulting firm. Tremaine Rose is one, I'm one, there's a million others that could have worked with them. The question was asked, how did they make the decision on remapping? I want to know the same too. And another thing, if District A is overpopulated, why don't you take from there? I mean, District D, why don't you take from there instead of messing with some of the other ones? Another thing, the District D and I think B is still being developed. Why don't you consider calling out the census to come back out if you're basing it on that as well? What does it take for us to get them to come back out, do another census on that? Again, I think this is political too. I think this is a way of y'all selecting your voters, okay? And I think this should be redone. Some of the residents, stakeholders should be selected to work on with that consultant firm. And I think it's only fair that we see the questions and the criteria that they use to make this determination. And I would really, really appreciate it if that could be posted on the website.
Yes, ma'am. And the criteria is already posted on the website. That is available on the city's, if you go to MissouriCityTX.gov and in the search field, just type in redistricting. The redistricting website will pop up, and the adopted criteria that council adopted on February 7th is already provided on the website, and that is the criteria that was used to kind of move the populations around. But again, you know, this is the public's opportunity to let council know. We have our full council here as well tonight.
Why wasn't it the public opportunity to work with the consultant firm? And I know you said they work with your staff, but you have to admit some of your staff don't even live in Missouri City. So for them to make that decision on our behalf is not fair.
Okay, no decisions have been made. These are just proposals.
We're the proposal.
So we will, based on the comments that we receive, and at Missouri MC redistricting at MissouriCityTX.gov as well, based on comments that we receive and from our council members, we will make changes and create additional maps.
I mean, you know, it's really sad that the entire city of Missouri City know how District A has been mistreated, undertreated. It's evidence tonight. Nobody want to be in District A, especially the north side. And I mean, I'm there. It's serious. Nobody want to be in District A. They know our issues, you know, and I know it's not the councils that are just coming on or that's been on 2 or 3 years. It's been ongoing.
Okay, thank you. And just as an FYI too, Commissioner Lucas, the council did vote on Monday to acquire property for a park in District A. Council voted on Monday, this past Monday, to acquire property for a park.
Yay!
So.
Wait a minute, where is it gonna be?
It's off of East Hampton Circle.
Oh, we got it, finally. 15 years to get a park.
Okay. So next person is Memory Hewlett. Memory Hewlett.
Evening, my name is Memory Hewlett. I reside at 2114 Peachwood Drive. Good evening, my name is Memory Hewlett. I reside at 2114 Peachwood Drive, Missouri City. I'm a resident of Meadow Creek for just about 30 years. And I spoke on the last meeting we had, and I had questions. However, they've been answered. So the only thing I want to say at this point in time is that I do concur with Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Fontenot, and especially my neighbor Cynthia Stewart, that I oppose of Meadow Creek being moved over to District A. And then also, you stated that you were you were working on another map. And my thoughts on that is it too late for, you say you're gonna work on another one, but the ones that are up, is it gonna really matter? That's my question, and I'll yield the rest of my time to Mr. Fontenot.
So yes, ma'am, the council has not voted on any of the proposed maps, so nothing has been finalized at all. So the map that might be released or should be released before the end of this week does move Meadow Creek back to District B. I have John. I don't see him, Mike. Okay. Mr. Mike Watson?
You want to do Jim go first? I'll go after Jim. I'll go after Mr. Fontenot. She has to recognize me.
Okay. Are you able to, I think the last person just yielded the time she had left, which was a minute 49.
For continuity, let's take Mr. Fontenot and then I'll speak after him.
Okay.
As the president of the association, I try to filter some of my members' comments.
He's my neighbor.
And I'll
If
bring
you don't
up
mind
some
holding
deals
on
here.
just a second.
First of all, disclaimer, we love District A people, okay? And when I heard that they have $500,000 per household over there, we want to be there, okay? And I think that it impressed Mayor Allicat too, because you guys got the park now with all that money you got. So keep the money coming in. At the end of the day, we have the census. Joyce, I sent you some information asking for the data to help me with some of the variations I'm working on, the deviation, or derivatives, if you will. Limited annexation, will you address that again and give us some indication of what's going to happen with Sienna? The last numbers I pulled from the 2020 census data with some of the undeveloped area over there suggest that there's over 10,000 residents. So if you give us some idea. On the home rule charter, we are a home rule charter, a little bit different from municipalities A, B, and C. So it does say that we have some flexibility. When you talked about, one of the questions I was hoping you were going to answer is whether or not we could extend this so-called deadline. Okay, if we miss the deadline, I don't think the federal government is going to come to Missouri City and arrest people. So can you tell me how we would deal with it if we don't get to whenever, April 28 or May? Because this is a home rule charter, and as you mentioned, the citizens by petition can make changes, but the council by 2/3 of a vote can make changes as well. So let us know what you could do on the extension if we need the time. And that's about it for now.
Okay, thank you. The council's not able to make changes to the charter without an election. And so, I have to state as the legal advisor for the city, I cannot recommend that the city not follow the guidelines that are set forth in the charter. You also asked about the Sienna area. So the only areas that are included in the total population count for Missouri City are the areas that have been annexed for limited purposes. So Sienna is a huge area, but there are parts of it, most of it has not been annexed into the city for limited purposes. We're only required under state law to include those areas for which we've done the limited purpose annexation. So to date, that's only Sienna Municipal Utility Districts 1, which is unpopulated, 5, which is unpopulated, 6, which I think they have some new development, and I believe that population is at about 1,000 people. and then 7, which has not been developed. And so perhaps by the 2030 census, there might be some additional people out, I would assume there'd have to be some additional people out there, but at this time, it's only the areas that are either located within the city, because there are some areas that are located within the actual boundaries of the city, and the areas for which the city has done a limited purpose annexation. So, Mr. Watson, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Many of you know me. I'm Mike Watson. I served on the bond committee from May last year until November, through the November election on the PAC. I reside at 3018 Apple Valley Lane off La Quinta in Floyd's district. Just as a matter, I'm an executive committee member of the Missouri City NAACP, but more important than that, I'm a Silver Lifetime member of the National, as well as a member of the Urban League, National Action Network, and the Rainbow Push Coalition. So I bring a lot of civil rights experience with me. I was a resident in the largest city in the United States, gone through 3 redistrictings with them, and a 40,000 population city in the state of New Jersey, gone through redistrict them. So I've had redistricting experience, as well as been a witness in Harris County and for Fort Bend County. So just a little levity, start off. Let's go back to 14th century Florence, Italy. And I'll begin off with the words, amore mi mosse che mi fa parlare. Communal love moves me and makes me speak. That's why I'm here tonight, because I love the entire Missouri City. Not just the cute Quail Valley where I live, but the entire Missouri City. So my biggest question that I've been trying to ask since March 7th was, what are you doing to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which applies to Texas since 1870, and its subdivisions that include Missouri City. So I need answers to that. Whoever, what are their diversity stats? You know, I ask that every time in all my bond committee work. How many minority partners does Bickerstaff have? Where do those people come from? Have they interacted with any of the civil rights community? Not that I know of. They haven't interacted with the League of Women Voters. I'm a member of Texas Against Gerrymandering. Haven't interacted with my group here, so I need to know that. So let's take those questions into account. I'll be back on April 4th in full regalia. So, and before that, I'll make sure I have comments in on the 28th to your office. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being in. But let's not forget, the 15th Amendment was adopted and it pertained to Texas, okay? As well as the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 is still alive and well. All right, night-night.
Thank you. And as mentioned during the presentation, the city's analysis of each map is complicit, it does comply with the federal law. So with that, I'll move on to Mr. Fletcher, John Fletcher.
Good afternoon. My name is John Fletcher, and also here with Ms. Faye Gould. So the reason I'm coming because there's a hidden agenda. There's something that's not being said here about the rezoning. I'm sure there is. It's about voting rights. I'm sure you know how everybody votes in all these districts and which way they vote and everything else. You know the numbers they call. They do all of that. But what I'm saying is we have a city councilwoman who works very hard, Ms. Edwards, who works very hard with us, trying to get everything done, and now you're adding all the stuff on top of her. It's almost like we need a lot more people on city council to get all the work done with all the problems that we have. And so that's one problem. But the thing is that we keep adding all this stuff on, nothing is getting done. This area A is sort of like a food desert. There's food stores who don't comply to regulations. We drive 5 to 10 miles away from our home to go get decent food, edible food. Restaurants, other people say they got them in their neighborhoods. We got fast food and gas station fast food. And also with this zoning, Also, the school district's going to be following the same zoning line. So then our children are going to be affected by the same type of zoning. So we're going to be back fighting a school zoning committee over the city zoning committee that's going to affect schools in this area. So I just want to say that, and also Ms. Faith has some things to say as well.
I'm in District A, Hunters Green community, and I just want you all to know, please don't leave us out. We have been there for, a lot of the community has been there over 30 years. We pay our taxes. We do everything we can to try to help our community. So please don't rule us out and don't shortchange us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, one other thing I want to say is that if you notice in the areas, we have a lot of people want to buy investment properties in District A. Yeah. We got people who coming in District A buying investment properties, becoming slumlords, not following city code, and areas are going down and down. So when you see these signs go up, we buy houses, they don't take those signs over in District D and put them up. They put them all in A when they see those areas are going down, when people are trying to get out and just leave. And that's hard work on all the people who want to remain in the area and try to build it up. So the investment property, people who are just trying to get paid off the rent and don't invest in the property trying to invest in. So that's the problems we're having as well.
Thank you. If I may just address the school zoning issue, the city's districts are the city's districts. It's not a zoning issue. It's not a Fort Bend ISD or HISD, depending on where you are, issue about districting. It's only the city of Missouri City's council districts.
But when they zone, they try to keep communities together. And so by your districting, putting communities together with other districts, they tend to follow that and move those zoning to that school in that area. So we have schools in this area who are underutilized. Yet we got problems with economically disadvantaged kids trying to go to school because no one is investing in the property. You got all of these industrial areas out here who are not even investing in the school districts and in the schools in their area. They're not even doing anything. And how are they paying taxes? Are they getting exempt? Are there any exemptions for those people? Because we're paying higher taxes than Sienna Plantation's paying. And we're getting less work for what we're getting.
You don't get a
So those are the problems we're having.
Thank you. Denise Martinez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Martinez, and I live in Meadow Creek. Hey, Meadow Creek. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for taking up all these questions. It takes a strong woman to do that, and I recognize that, and I appreciate you. I also appreciate all of y'all for all the hard work and taking time out from your family to be here, and that's truly appreciated, and I respect that. I also want to say I do oppose the changes that are going to be made or are in mind of being made. You know, I oppose that. I really want to stay in District B. No offense to District A. We appreciate you. We love you. We just want to stay where we are. You know, changes are really hard. And at this moment, I do want to yield my time. My partner over here, Jim, is supposed to be up here with me. He's coming. So he can take on the rest of the questions that, it's not him that's asking, it's actually a list of questions that are coming in from our Meadow Creek members.
And this is my vice president too, by the way. She does a great job for Meadow Creek. The only thing I wanted to bring up, Joyce, and again, you're doing a great job on this, and I don't envy your task. The Sienna deal is really of concern. Two things you said. Number one, that there was 1,000 roughly residents brought into play. And I'm assuming they voted in the last election.
I don't know that they were there in 2020. I know that they are there now.
They're there now.
Yeah, I think, and don't quote me, but I think in 2020 there were, or at least when the annexation was completed,
Okay.
I think the number we got from Fort Bend County was, I think it was less than 100.
I sent you an email on this, and that's one of the reasons why my numbers, I can't seem to get to the total. And then you mentioned the other thing that sort of concerned me, and that is over the next 10 years, there is the probability that more will come into play. The question I have is, what district do they go into when they come out of Sienna?
So It depends on the map that is adopted by the council.
Can we use the 1,000 as an example? Where did they go?
Right now, they are in District D. But as mentioned, District D is overpopulated. So
Makes sense.
in proposed maps B and C, those folks would go to District C. Under proposed map A, they would stay in District D.
Okay, now we've got, from what I could see on the map, there's roughly, I'm going to say 10,000 plus lots developed over in Siena that are unincorporated. Any idea what percentage of those lots will come into play over the next 10 years?
That I don't know.
That should be considered. This is very serious. You're talking about votes. 1,000, some elections are won by 4 votes. And you're talking about 1,000 people coming into District D that's already out of compliance. Oh, come on. We need a workshop.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Dorothy Mitchell.
Good evening, Ms. Mitchell. Well, I am from Colony Crosses / Fondren Grove. And that is because of, a lot of people don't even realize we have 2 subdivision names within one. And and that's something we need to fix also. But to my family over here, most of us have been here about at least 20 years. Our homes are paid for. Our homes has been remodeled. If you come down Great Gessner, and then you make a right or a left, you won't believe the neighborhood that's in there. We have a swimming pool. We have a tennis court. We have a clubhouse. We take care of our own. But now we have been asking for years about, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back to the very beginning. When we moved in, I'm a real estate broker. I had no idea I was moving into a industrial area. There was nothing in my paperwork. It was classified as residential single-family home. First time we got screwed. After that, then they brought us in, and then they won't even help us build a sidewalk. We don't want to move, and no disrespect to District B. But what we do need is to fix our problems without changing anything until each district is happy, and then we can sit down and go back. But we need to take care of everybody that lives here now who have paid taxes and is doing the right thing. So I'm opposed to any change. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is our last speaker. At this time, I would like to thank you all for coming and for participating in this process. I'd also like to thank the city team, the IT department, information and technology, communications, parks, the city manager's office, council, and my own team as well for supporting this program and this process today. Again, I urge each and every one of the residents to participate by submitting your written comments to mcredistricting@missouricitytx.gov. Again, our council is listening and they're reading, so please definitely do that. And thank you again and have a great night.